Hey there! Today we're going to have a look at this product, which works something like this. You unscrew this bit, put in one of those small batteries no, wait a minute. The jury says it's the wrong product. Okay, now I was obviously just joking, although that would be a fascinating new channel. Anyway, this is of course a Piuma. This is made by Ensso, and Ensso, lovely company, has sent me many products to review in the past, and I always like to point out that it is by companies doing that this channel continues to exist, right? That gives me an opportunity to continue to review things, so I'm very grateful for that. Carlo has been very, very sweet and nice to work with. They now have these pens. These are the Piuma pocket pens, but these are made of Ultem. And Ultem is an interesting material that I'll talk about a little bit more when I point down the camera. The pocket model we've seen before, but not in this material, so I certainly think it warrants a whole different review. And you have two different nib, actually three different nib options. There is a stainless steel, there is a black coated stainless steel, and then there is a titanium nib. So there certainly are some options there. I think these are fun pens, especially because once you post them, you have a full-sized pen, and otherwise you just have a tiny little pen that some people can use unposted too, but I personally can't. So, not to waste any more of your precious time, I think we should look at the parts of the pen. I will do that, then I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like about and what I don't like about these pens. Let's get started. Okay, I was contacted by Ensso, who have sent me quite a couple of things in the past, so I'm always very grateful for that. And they sent me two pens. These are the boxes, and then you get, I love these boxes by the way, because there's no waste, like you can just recycle them. I love that. And then there's a little Ziploc bag, and in there is a pen and a cartridge. So we have here two of their pens. They very kindly sent me two of them. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit, maybe not that much. And then let me show you this pen right next to a Pilot Metropolitan. Careful not to make anything roll. These are pocket pens, and they are $95 US. They're available in fine, medium, and broad. Black coated nibs, fine and medium mirror finish, so that's a stainless steel nib. The black coated are also steel. And then there is a fine titanium, and they're all number 6. I'll show you that in just a second. Number 6 nib on a pocket pen is somewhat rare and I think quite nice. These pens are made of Ultem, which is another name, and I'm going to butcher this, for I don't know where to put the stress here, polyether imide or polyether imide or polyether, you correct me. This is a very high strength, high chemical resistance plastic used in all sorts of things, including jet engines. I don't know how that works, but I do think it's cool, and it's supposed to be stronger than acrylic. These are cartridge filled pens, and you can also use them as eyedropper filled pens, and that's pretty much all there's to it. I have tried both, but I'm just going to show you this one. I'll zoom in a little bit. Very capsular look. I have reviewed other of the Piuma pockets, same shape, same principle. So the principle is no wasted space. You get a fairly large cap, which you unscrew, then screw onto the back of the pen, and then you have a full-sized, I'm sorry, let me zoom out a little bit, that's a bit too much, I'm sorry. Then you have a full-sized pen, this with the stainless steel nib, B.R.E. 250 nib unit. If you choose not to post it, then you get a really small pen. For me, this is not really pragmatic to use, but I know there are some people who can use it that way. I would certainly post it. This Ultem material, which to me also sounds like the name of a Russian wrestler, Igor Ultem or something, this does really sound very, very hard. Doesn't sound, feels, very, very rigid, so I do quite like that. Section, nicely shaped, slightly curved, tapers down, flares out a little bit, and then we have the number 6 nib, just unbranded B.R.E, and I'm pretty sure this is a fine ABS feed, and here the pen is fed with a standard international cartridge supplied with the pen. There is an O-ring in place. Put a little bit of silicone grease there. I would do that just to be sure, although just to make sure there's no leakage if you convert the pen to an eyedropper filled pen, although Ensso does say the threads are designed to repel ink. They do recommend unscrewing the nib unit and putting some silicone grease on the threads of the nib unit. Now, I don't really like eyedroppers because I've had an accident once where one accidentally unscrewed and there was ink everywhere. It's not pleasant for anyone. So I don't really use eyedroppers, but if you do want to do that, then of course you can. Standard international cartridge is all you get in here. Maybe one of those Templar mini converters, or maybe one of those Kaweco squeeze type converters would also fit, but I would say that's about what you get. I'll get to likes and dislikes, but let's first do a bit of writing. So what we have here is an Ensso, I can't write, Piuma in Ultem. No. Yeah, now I'm gonna no, I can only do the Church Slavonic, sorry. Ultem, and we have a Fine Nib, and this is just black ink from a converter that came with it. Like I don't know what brand this is. Okay, the Fine Nib, certainly a little bit of feedback, but as you can tell, it's also really a pretty fine nib. I don't find it particularly scratchy or unpleasant. There is just a bit of feedback. And when I tried the other nib, so this is what it would look like with the black coated nib, the tipping is also coated. And that gives a particular type of feedback as well. Often I find those a little less smooth than the untipped nibs. The tipping on the black coating will wear, sorry, the coating on the black, no, the black coating on the tipping, God, will at some point wear off though, just from the continuous contact with paper, and then they become smoother as well. It's not really a bad thing. I just meant to say that is a thing. So also a bit of a function of this ink, I feel, but this is not the world's wettest writer. Under no pressure you get about this. With some pressure you get that. So the truth is somewhere in the middle, I would say. I would probably make this nib a little wetter if it were my pen. Line variation, well, it's not a flex nib, but if you want, you can certainly squeeze out some. Be very, very careful though. This is not a flex nib. As to reverse writing, it's not that easy. As you can see, the nib dries out fairly quickly, and then there is nothing. So I wouldn't buy it for that. Having said that, I think these are fun pens. I've reviewed the model of the Piuma Pocket before. I think they're very fun. Let's talk in a bit more detail about what I like about the pen and what I don't like about the pen. Let's do that now. What do I like? What do I not like about the Ensso Piuma Pocket in Ultem? I like the Ultem material. I will say it does feel very robust. With something like this cap, like there's a solidity to it. I don't know how else to explain it. It does feel like a solid material. The model I've reviewed before, there are some things I really like about it. The pocket pens, I went through a phase where I was kind of into pocket pens. I'm not in that phase anymore. It's not really my favorite thing, but I will say it's cool that you have something that's pretty pocketable and that you can then turn into a full-sized pen without too much hassle, and then you have something cute. I like the translucent material a lot. It means you can at least get an impression of how much ink you have left, whether you use eyedropper mode or cartridges. As an eyedropper, you certainly can see how much ink you have left, obviously, so that's great. But even with a cartridge, you can clearly see this is a pretty much full cartridge. So I think that's really nice. I like that you have the eyedropper ability, just because it's a smaller pen. Cartridges don't, standard international cartridges don't have the biggest capacity. So I think it's very nice that you can really fill it up and increase that capacity if you really need a lot of ink. The downside, of course, is what if it accidentally opens up? Then there's quite a bit of leakage. That's the reason I don't like to eyedropper pens, but that's just me. Downsides, I really have one, and first of all, for pens that go in pockets, I'm always wary about them accidentally uncapping. If you really tighten this cap, it's solid, so I wouldn't worry about that. That was not the downside. The downside is it's not cheap. $95 US for a fairly small pen steel nib is not cheap. Then again, it's a very nice pen in my mind. They work very well. They are very solid. It's kind of a cool material. So in light of all that, I think they're pretty cool. So there you have it. A very kind thank you to Ensso for sending me these two pens. I appreciate it. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later.